It's never been easier to get answers. You ask AI how to feel more confident, and it delivers a 10-step plan in seconds. You prompt it for your dream morning routine, your healing journey, your purpose roadmap, and it gives you polished clarity every time. But the real question isn't how well AI can coach you. It's this: does it actually move you? Because the difference between AI coaching and self-coaching is not in the quality of advice, it's in the location of trust. When you get guidance from AI, you're receiving pattern-based logic. When you coach yourself, you're engaging lived intuition. And while both are useful, only one can build long-term transformation. The one that teaches you how to hear your own voice through the noise. Most people don't trust that voice. They over-rely on external input to validate internal tension. They want AI to tell them they're on the right path instead of learning how to sit with doubt and move anyway. AI can suggest a boundary script, but only you know the tone that feels true. AI can offer a healing schedule, but only you know the pace your nervous system can handle. AI can give you 5 affirmations, but only you can embody the one that actually lands in your body. And this is the hidden cost of AI-based coaching. It can numb your self-leadership. Not because it's wrong, but because it's too clean, too fast, too external. Growth isn't built in shortcuts. It's built in tension, in curiosity, in not knowing and showing up anyway. That's where self-coaching begins. Not with answers, but with better questions. Not what should I do next, but what am I avoiding by asking for more clarity? Not how do I feel confident now, but can I hold this discomfort and still move forward? Self-coaching is uncomfortable, but it's also unshakable, because it teaches you that wisdom doesn't always come from the outside. Sometimes it emerges in the pause between decisions, in the breath before action, in the moment when you realize you've outgrown your old ways of thinking. And that kind of growth, it's not found in a prompt, it's found in presence. AI might know your goals, but only you know your grief. Only you know the real reason you're stuck. Only you can tell the difference between progress and performance. That's why the question isn't which coaching is better, it's which one brings you back to yourself. Because if the path takes you further from your own voice, even if it sounds brilliant, it's not growth. Real growth doesn't outsource your power, it shows you how to reclaim it. There's a reason we're drawn to AI coaching. It feels safe, it's structured, it's emotionally neutral. It gives you what you ask for without judgment, without fear, without friction. And in a world that often feels chaotic and unclear, that stability is soothing. You say, help me break a habit. It gives you a morning routine, a habit stack, an accountability strategy. You say, help me gain confidence. It gives you affirmations, visualization prompts, mindset shifts. Everything is categorized, packaged, and instantly delivered. No overthinking required. But here's the catch. Self-awareness isn't an equation. You don't heal because a list told you how. You heal when a moment inside you opens, and that moment rarely arrives on command. AI can help point the way, but it can't sit with you in the friction of becoming. It can't feel your hesitation. It can't sense the moment your breath gets shallow before a hard truth. That's where self-coaching enters. Not to replace structure, but to translate insight into self-leadership. Because self-coaching asks, what's actually alive in me right now? Do I even believe this solution I just read? Is this method a mirror or just another mask? It's not always comfortable. Self-coaching doesn't hand you answers, it hands you a flashlight and says, go look. And sometimes what you find isn't what you wanted to see. But that's exactly what builds internal trust, the willingness to witness yourself fully. Where AI coaching gives you a script, self-coaching gives you reflection. Where AI says, here's what works, self-coaching asks, but does this work for me? That question alone can change everything. Because so many of us are performing growth, doing the right things, checking the boxes, repeating the affirmations, but not feeling different, not living differently, We've externalized change, made it something to be delivered. But true change is internalized. It's felt, it's relational, it's nuanced, and it doesn't happen when you outsource your process. It happens when you get honest about your energy, your cycles, your resistance, your needs, and you meet those truths with presence, not just productivity. That's what makes self-coaching hard, but also what makes it sacred. So use AI coaching. Let it support you, let it offer tools, but don't confuse its clarity for conviction. Conviction is built through embodied feedback. What happens when you try, when you fail, when you return? That can't be downloaded. It must be lived. And the more you trust that process, the more you'll realize the best coach you've ever had might already live inside you. Not perfect, but present. Not polished, but powerful. Let's be clear. This isn't a battle between AI and self. It's a reminder that both are tools, but only one of them teaches you to listen. AI offers brilliant structure. It can scaffold your goals, mirror back language that sharpens your intentions, and even introduce routines you hadn't thought to try. That's valuable, especially if you're just starting out, feeling foggy or overwhelmed by the noise in your own head. But clarity isn't the finish line, it's just the door. And once you've walked through that door, self-coaching asks you to go further, to pause, to question, to feel. Because growth isn't just built in actions, it's built in the relationship between your inner world and your outer behavior. That's why people struggle when they use AI to generate plans, but still sabotage their goals. It's not the strategy that's broken. It's that the emotional terrain hasn't been mapped. The fear isn't gone. The shame still lingers. The pattern hasn't shifted because the story behind it hasn't been rewritten. Self-coaching helps you rewrite that story. But not through words alone, through experience. When you self-coach, you stop reacting and start responding. You catch yourself mid-pattern. You pause instead of spiraling. You ask, what part of me feels unsafe right now? Instead of what's the next step? That emotional fluency. That's what builds change that sticks. Because you're no longer just managing yourself. You're relating to yourself. You're no longer forcing discipline. You're understanding your energy. You're no longer chasing a future self. You're becoming one. Moment by moment, choice by choice. And AI can't guide you through that terrain because it doesn't feel. It doesn't remember. It doesn't hesitate. You do. And that's your power. Not a weakness, but the very signal that growth is real. That it's happening in real time, inside your nervous system, not just on a to-do list. So here's the real invitation. Use AI for scaffolding. Use it to get unstuck, to spark momentum, to explore new paths. But then slow down. Ask your body how it feels. Ask your heart what it's holding. Ask your breath if it's shallow or steady. These questions don't just move you forward, they move you inward. And that's where all lasting change begins. Not in the code of a chatbot, but in the pause before your next decision. In the awareness that asks, is this action aligned or just familiar? That's where self-coaching wins, not by replacing AI, but by deepening your relationship with your own wisdom. And when that wisdom leads, the strategy doesn't matter as much, because you're no longer trying to be efficient, you're trying to be true. One of the most overlooked benefits of self-coaching is that it rewires your identity, from someone who needs guidance to someone who creates alignment. You stop asking, what should I do next? And you start asking, what version of me do I want to reinforce right now? This is how internal leadership is built, not in the moments when everything is clear, but in the moments when nothing is. And here's the honest truth most people won't tell you. Even the best prompt won't save you from the work of facing yourself. You can ask AI to write your plan, your values, your healing journey. But the moment real resistance shows up, none of that matters unless you know how to meet it. That's where self-coaching becomes sacred. Because it doesn't protect you from discomfort. It teaches you how to stay present in it. It shows you how to, Interrupt a shame spiral without running. Breathe through the urge to numb or self-abandon. Recommit to your future self after a moment of misalignment. AI can simulate structure, but it can't simulate self-compassion in the middle of a setback. It can't feel the grief behind your procrastination. It can't sense the inner child you're unconsciously protecting. It can't decode the body signals that say, "I'm not lazy, I'm scared." Only you can do that. And that's what makes self-coaching powerful. It returns authorship to you. It says, you don't need to be perfect to move. You just need to be aware. That awareness becomes your anchor, your pattern breaker, your path back to integrity. And with time, something profound happens. You stop looking for the right answer. You start listening for the true one. That's not something AI can give you. That's a relationship you cultivate with your thoughts, your sensations, your inner cues. The more you practice, the more nuanced your growth becomes. You recognize when to push and when to rest, when a plan is helpful and when it's bypassing real emotion, when a goal is aligned and when it's just ego in disguise. And that's what no prompt can teach you: discernment. Because discernment comes from depth, from learning your rhythms, from making mistakes, from paying attention. And in a world full of templates and 10-step programs, depth is your competitive advantage. Self-coaching is not fast, but it's durable. It won't give you a dopamine spike, but it will give you your power back. So the next time you feel the urge to reach for external advice, pause. Ask, what do I already know but haven't practiced yet? That's the place to begin. Not with more input, but with more intimacy. That's how you stop outsourcing your life and start living it on your own terms. There's a time and place for both, AI guidance and self-led reflection. But if you're honest, you already know when you're using AI to explore and when you're using it to avoid. Avoid the pause. Avoid the stillness. Avoid hearing the part of you that already knows what needs to shift but just doesn't want to face the friction. It's okay. We all do it. We ask for another routine, another productivity hack, another prompt for motivation, because staying in research mode feels safer than risking disappointment. But self-coaching doesn't wait for certainty. It moves when things are messy. It acts while fear still lingers. It learns by doing, not by scripting. That's what makes it so powerful. It doesn't require perfection, just presence. And presence is the foundation of all true change. The AI might give you the map, but you still have to walk the road. And that road, it's built one small self-led decision at a time. When you skip the journaling, but still check in with your breath before a hard conversation, that's self-coaching. When you notice an old trigger and respond with curiosity instead of shame, that's self-coaching. When you let your nervous system guide your pace instead of a perfect calendar, that's self-coaching. It's subtle, it's often invisible, but it's everything. Because it's in those tiny private moments that your identity shifts. You move from being someone who needs direction to someone who creates direction. And that shift, it's magnetic. It ripples into your confidence, your clarity, your relationships, and your ability to stay consistent even when no one's watching. You don't always need more input. Sometimes you just need to listen to the quiet wisdom inside you and be brave enough to act on it. That's what separates coaching that's useful from coaching that's transformational. AI can support the structure, but only you can give it soul. Only you can build the kind of self-trust that no tool, no trend, no voice outside of you can ever replace. So the next time you're tempted to download another plan or ask for one more perfect prompt, pause and ask, what would it look like to trust myself just for today? What would it look like to become my own coach? Not because I have all the answers, but because I'm finally willing to meet myself where I am, without needing to fix anything. That's where real growth lives. Not in the next idea, but in the next honest step. This is where the conversation comes full circle. You've seen how AI can clarify, organize, inspire, You've also felt how it can distract, soothe, even distance you from your deeper voice. And now you get to decide, what kind of growth do you really want? Because if you're looking for a perfectly optimized version of yourself, you'll keep turning to AI, hoping for a script that finally sticks. But if you're looking for authentic, embodied, lasting change, you'll have to go inward. Not to reject help, but to remember that your inner coach already exists. It may not speak in polished sentences, it may not sound like the smartest voice in the room, but it's the one that stays with you in the dark, long after the prompt ends. That voice, the one that says, "You're safe to try again," or "We're not giving up today," is the foundation of everything. And the more you practice listening to it, trusting it, honoring it, the more your life stops being something you manage and starts becoming something you create. Because that's what self-coaching really is, the daily, often invisible act of choosing authorship. Authorship over your thoughts, over your patterns, over your reactions, over your healing. Even when it's not clean, even when it's not trending, especially then. So as you move forward, remember, AI is a helpful tool, but it's not the teacher. You are. You're the one living with your choices. You're the one sensing when you've strayed from alignment. You're the one who has to carry the weight and the joy of becoming. And when you choose to show up again, with presence, with breath, with self-honesty, you are already winning. Not because it looks impressive, but because it's true. Your growth doesn't need to be downloaded. It needs to be felt. Let AI assist you. Let it serve. But never let it replace the sacred rhythm of you showing up for you. That's where the real work begins, and that's where the real you is built. Follow Think Fresh daily to stay grounded in that journey, because no one else can walk it for you. But you were never meant to do it perfectly, only presently, only honestly, only one breath, one step, one moment at a time.